with ACCE's Education Attainment Division. Before we begin, I would just like to go over a few logistics and ensure everyone can hear us properly and see our presentation on their screen. If you have not utilized the GoToWebinar platform, you will notice that in the right-hand corner of your screen, there is a toolbox that you can utilize. On the bottom right-hand corner, there's an expanding folder that allows you to submit questions. If you have any, please feel free to submit your questions during the presentation. At the end, we'll also open up the line and unmute our attendees so that we can have a Q&A discussion. Below the questions toolbar, you'll see a section for handouts where you will find a copy of today's presentation available. If you are also experiencing any technical difficulties, if you cannot see our screen or you cannot hear us properly, please feel free to let us know in the questions toolbox, and we'll go ahead and address those and try to resolve those for you. As you know, our division regularly hosts webinar calls for its community members to provide information and technical assistance that help ACCE member organizations advance education and workforce development agendas. During today's call, we will discuss the Workforce Innovation Opportunities Act, and we have invited content experts to go over key information about the new law and how our chamber members can engage their member employers and business communities in the implementation of this law. In a moment, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Kathy Zandona, who is our Senior Education Attainment Division Consultant, and will introduce our guest speakers for today's call. But before I do, I just quickly like to draw your attention to today's agenda. On it, you'll see that we're going to begin with a presentation on WIOA, and then open up the line for a facilitated discussion. During that time, we'll invite all of you to ask any questions that you have, and take the opportunity to ask our presenters the technical questions that you have. We also ask that during this call, during that facilitated discussion, that you do not place this on hold, because we will typically hear feedback music if your organization has that feature set up on your phone. But you are, however, welcome to mute us on your own phone if there's any background noise that you don't want us to hear. At the end of today's call, I will also go over just a few additional resources that we have available to you as members of ACCE. And with that being said, I'm going to hand things over to Kathy.
Great, thank you, Anna. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this call. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you two individuals that we've had the privilege of working with here recently in the last month or so. First, I'd like to introduce Scott Ellsworth, who will do a brief presentation in the presentation that Bryan's going to do in just a moment. But Scott directs the Business Leaders United for Workforce Partnership, referred to as BLU. So if you see that term now, you'll know that BLU stands for Business Leaders United for Workforce Partnerships, which is an employer-led project of the National Skills Coalition. And Scott's going to give you a little bit more information about that in just a moment. He assumed this leadership role in 2014. Prior to that, Scott was the Vice President of the U.S. Operations and General Manager of the TIPCO Punch, Inc. in Hamilton, Ohio. He also served as the Chairman of BLU and on the Partner Council of the Partnership for a Competitive Workforce, an affiliate of the National Fund for the Workforce Solutions, which serves the greater Cincinnati area. So we know that Scott comes with a lot of great background information to his job, where he is the business person. He knows what it's like. Scott has a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering with honors from the University of Louisville, Louisville being my hometown, so I was excited about that, and he's based in Cincinnati, Ohio. Next, I'd like to introduce Bryan, who's going to lead our presentation. Bryan Wilson is the State Policy Director for the National Skills Coalition, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about that in his presentation and what the Skills Coalition is about and how you can get involved. He joined the National Skills Coalition in 2013. Prior to that, Bryan was the Deputy Director of Washington State's Workforce Training and Education Coordinating Board, which oversees both the state workforce development and career and technical education programs at the secondary and post-secondary levels. He also held policy posts in Washington State Governor's Office and the State House of Representatives. Again, you could hear by his background and experience really provides, he sees the gamut of, K through 12 and post-secondary and how we need better alignment and how to get the skills we need in our labor force. Bryan holds a doctorate degree from Rutgers University, a master's from the University of Oregon, and a bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan. He is now based in Washington, D.C. So now I'd like to turn it over to Bryan, who will begin the presentation. Thank you, Bryan and Scott, for being here.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for that introduction, and I'm very happy to be speaking with you today. As indicated, I'll be talking about the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, in particular about business engagement opportunities that the Act provides. First, a few words about the National Skills Coalition and Business Leaders United. The National Skills Coalition is a national nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that advocates around workforce development policy, based here in D.C. Our vision is we seek an America that grows its economy by investing in its people so that every worker in every industry has the skills to compete and prosper. Our mission, we organize broad-based coalitions seeking to raise the skills of America's workers across a range of industries. We advocate for public policies that invest in what works as informed by our members, real-world expertise. And we communicate these goals to an American public seeking a vision for a strong U.S. economy that allows everyone to be part of its success. Now, a few words about Business Leaders United.
Thanks, Bryan. So, as Kathy said, I'm the director of Blue. I come from the working world. Actually chaired the chamber a few years back, and so I understand the work that y'all do. Blue is really a national advocacy organization. It's small and medium-sized businesses, so most of the businesses we operate with in your chamber are going to be interested in the work that we do. We're cross-sectoral. We have from healthcare, manufacturing, construction, and really what we do is we bring business voice, primarily small and medium-sized businesses, into the conversation about the workforce system. We work very hard to engage employers in the workforce system, trying to get them to be a part of it and to help make it work better for them. And so that's really the work that we do. We're here to help you, and we're part of this conversation today because we want you to know that your employers really need to be a part of this effort. If they're not, they're going to end up with a system that doesn't work for them. So Bryan, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. And it's great having Scott on board, having someone who actually ran a business for many years, providing that perspective. So the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, and I'm going to refer to it by its acronym, WIOA, passed with overwhelming bipartisan support in both the House and the Senate, and we all know how rare that is these days. It was signed into law in July of 2014, replacing the Workforce Investment Act that had been in place for 16 years. Implementation of WIOA began this year on July 1st. WIOA is governed by state and local workforce development boards. A majority of the board members must represent business. And the business members must be nominated by business organizations, both at the state level and the local level. business organizations such as chambers of commerce. Nominating the business members of the workforce boards is a key opportunity for business engagement in WIOA. Now, while the new boards were to be in place back on July 1st of this year, they're probably not all in place everywhere. We hope that you were approached already about nominating individuals for your boards. If you haven't, maybe the board isn't in place yet and there's still that opportunity. But even if the new board is in place, it won't be long before there will be a new opportunity to nominate individuals. Boards are certified for a 2-year period. So not too far in the future, the governor at the state level and the chief local elected official, typically a county executive at the local level, should be approaching business organizations, particularly chambers, once again for recommendations for nominations as to who should be board members. WIOA directly covers 6 federal programs under its 4 titles. There are 4 titles, but Title I includes 3 programs, each for adults, dislocated workers, and youth. In order to coordinate these programs, WIOA requires states and local areas to create new plans. Under WIOA, states have 2 basic options, either creating a unified plan or what the Act refers to as a combined plan. A unified plan covers the 6 core programs under WIOA that were shown on the previous slide. A combined plan covers those 6 programs and at least 1 other. Options include Perkins, Career and Technical Education, TANF, Temporary Assistance to Needy Families, and SNAP, Employment Training. SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition and Assistance Program. It's what was used to be called food stamps. There are other programs that could also be part of a state combined plan. The plans, whether a unified plan or a combined plan, are due from the states to the feds on March 3rd of 2016. Many states have draft plans now out for public comment. A public comment period is a requirement of the Act. Those that do not yet have draft plans out for comment will have to have drafts out before the end of January in order to fulfill the public comment period requirements and still make the deadline of having plans submitted to the feds by March 3rd. This public comment period is a time when business can make its voice heard. Hopefully, businesses already, besides the board members themselves, others in the business community have already been involved in the creation of draft plans. But if not before, now is certainly the time to be acting in reviewing draft plans from the state so the business voice is heard and you're not stuck with a plan that you cannot fix later. Now, there are other ways of engaging employers in WIOA besides being board members and engaging in planning, which, as this picture illustrates, is not everyone's cup of tea. Other ways that businesses can be engaged in WIOA are through sector partnerships and employer-provided training. So what is a sector partnership? A sector partnership is a collaboration of employers with education, training, labor when the industry is organized, and community-based organization to address the local skill needs of a particular industry sector, such as manufacturing or healthcare or other sectors of the economy. Sector partnerships identify the skill gaps in the sector in the local area, develop a plan to close the gaps, and implement the plan. Example of actions that sector partnerships help facilitate include identifying skill standards of what workers need to know and be able to do in the industry in that area, geographic area. Guide curriculum development, perhaps a local community college or other training provider. Actually work with public and private training providers to see that the training is provided. Often, sector partnerships engage in marketing career opportunities. Perhaps the challenge is that not enough young people are entering occupations in that industry sector. Often this is a challenge, for example, in manufacturing. So sector partnerships have engaged in marketing campaigns going down to the high school, even middle school level, in order to get more young people interested in career opportunities. Another activity many sector partnerships engage in is brokering resources between employers and providers. So for example, community colleges often have trouble attracting faculty who have up-to-date knowledge of the industry, often because they cannot pay salary levels for the faculty that are competitive. Sector partnerships have been successful in brokering deals where employers have lent staff, employees, over to a community college to serve as adjunct faculty so that they do have people who are knowledgeable about the industry teaching the courses. Local workforce boards are required to develop, convene, or implement sector partnerships, and states are required to support local partnerships. Now, this is the language in the Act. These requirements are written in the law. So if you do approach your local workforce development board about sector partnerships being formed in your area, don't take no as an answer. They have to be doing this. Probably the only legitimate reason for saying no would be if they already have a sector partnership covering the industry sector in your area already. The partnership can be convened by the local workforce development board, but it does not have to be. Other organizations can be the actual convener, the entity that pulls the partners together with employers from the sector. Chambers of commerce can and have convened sector partnerships in areas across the country. Resources are available for this. States must use what's known as the Governor's Reserve Fund in WIOA, sometimes also referred to as the 15% fund because it's 15% of the WIOA Title I money, to help support the convening of sector partnerships and to help sector partnerships carry out their activities. States have also, at times, and I believe it's 15 states, provided, well, between the federal dollars and state dollars, some states have also authorized state dollars to be used to support sector partnerships. States can also provide technical assistance and set criteria to ensure that there are quality sector partnerships formed, including making sure that employers of a substantial number are at the table. In all, there are 21 different states that have policies to support local sector partnerships. Now, besides sector partnerships, another way that employers can engage through WIOA is directly providing training. In WIOA, there's a strong emphasis on registered apprenticeship, which, of course, employers are a partner in. Funds can be used to support both classroom and on-the-job components of registered apprenticeships. WIOA also authorizes up to 20% of the WIOA funds at the local level to be used for incumbent worker programs. Training for workers already employed but who can move up a career ladder with additional training. Now, employers do have to pitch in the cost of incumbent worker training, varying from 10% of the cost up to 50%, depending on the size of employers. Small employers, very small employers, only have to pay 10% of the money. The rest comes from the federal dollars. Large employers do have to pay 50% of the cost. WIOA also authorizes on-the-job training, which can cover the costs for training of new individuals, typically those who are new to the occupation and need training to become proficient for the employer's needs, and customized training that's really geared towards a particular employer. Business can work with local workforce boards to develop and expand these strategies in ways that help build a talent pipeline for the industry, especially where hands-on experience is critical to success. Employers can also engage in training for youth. Under WIOA, at least 20% of the youth funds must be spent on paid or unpaid work experience. This can include summer employment opportunities or employment opportunities throughout the school year for young people who are still in school. It can include pre-apprenticeship programs that help prepare young people for entry into formal apprenticeships. It can include internships, paid or unpaid, and it can include job shadowing opportunities for young people. And finally, can also include on-the-job training. These are good opportunities to target young people. The age range is 16 to 24 years of age, many of whom are outside of the traditional pipelines of K-12 and higher education. And businesses can use this training as onboarding strategies that build not only the occupational skills of these individuals, but also the soft skills or general workplace skills that are often a challenge to find good quality in new employees. So to summarize, some of the ways that I hope you heard that employers can be engaged in WIOA are to nominate members of workforce boards and to work with state and local workforce boards to influence the direction of workforce development in your states and local areas. Chambers can help form sector partnerships. Businesses can directly provide training to adults and youth. And chambers can influence state policies, such as sector partnership policies, to make sure the right policies are in place. The word opportunity is in WIOA's name. It's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. But in order to realize the opportunity for business engagement, it does take action. We urge you to join others in advocating to meet employers' skill needs. We urge you to join Blue. Over 500 small and medium-sized employers have joined Business Leaders United. You can also work with existing state coalitions. We have coalitions in about a dozen local states. Here you see 9 of the most active local coalitions. And we are working with others to develop new coalitions. We're currently working in Georgia with the Chamber to build a coalition there. And in the next couple of years, some of the states that we're targeting for potential coalitions include Maine, Mississippi, New Mexico, North Carolina, Virginia, and Texas. With that, that concludes my presentation. Scott and I are available to answer questions and to engage in discussion with you.
Great. Thank you very much, Bryan and Scott, for a great presentation. I do have some questions, but before I start rattling off my questions, I thought I'd open it up to the audience to see if any of our participants have something they'd like to ask and or comment on. So do I have any volunteers out there that would like to provide a question or a comment? And Anna, I'm assuming you have unmuted our guests, correct?
I'm going to unmute them now. Kelly and Nancy, I sent you an audio pin. If you don't mind entering the audio pin into your phone, I will be able to unmute you. Beth, I see that you have a question. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, this is Beth Duffield. I am from the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce, and I actually serve on our local workforce board. And I apologize if I missed this, but Bryan, could you talk about any opportunities for incumbent worker dollars and how that is going to play out with this new act?
Sure. Local boards can decide how much of their WIOA Title I dollars to allocate for incumbent worker training. They're permitted to allocate up to 20% of the adult and dislocated worker money for that purpose. The dollars do have to leverage dollars from the employer. How much depends on the size of the employer. Small employers, only 10% of the cost of the training need to be provided by the employer. 90% comes from the federal dollars. For large employers, 50% of the dollars cost of the training has to be covered by the employers.
What is the definition of large and small?
I don't have that offhand. We can get that information to you.
Okay. Yeah, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
I have a follow-up to that, if I can just, would that include if a business, let's just say mid-sized business, felt that I have an incumbent, I have a worker that if he or she got their associate's degree or bachelor's degree, can that money be used towards technical AA or BA degrees?
There is no restriction in the Act as to the level of training or to previous educational attainment of the individuals being trained. So I would say yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Again, participants, do we have any other additional questions? Okay, well, I'm going to kind of ask for a couple details on, Bryan, one of the examples you gave was some communities that realized that their young people were not being lured into or seen the, we'll just say the advanced manufacturing world, and that there's been some marketing campaigns that took place. Can you talk about where that might be, if there's examples for our chambers to learn from, and what type of success that they measure that we could hear about?
Sure. Drawing on my previous experience in Washington State, one of the successful local examples occurred in Spokane, Washington. There was concern that not enough young people were going into manufacturing construction jobs, and in particular, not enough young women. So they created something they called Pizza, Pop, and Power Tools, which provided the young people pizza, soda, or pop, and taught them how to use power tools. And of course, there was a broader educational component to this as well, teaching them about the manufacturing and construction industries, about the job opportunities that are live there, and trying to entice them to see this as a really worthy career path for them to choose. And the results in terms of the young people, this was at the high school level, the results in terms of the young people then choosing post-secondary training in construction or manufacturing, it was pretty good.
So with that said, with those examples, are they on your website, or is that just something that you have knowledge of?
Yeah, that one is not. We don't have information on that one on our website. So no, that's something from my previous job.
I know that in the work that we do with the chamber, we have a fellowship program, and I'm going to send this information on to the person in Knoxville, Tennessee, who's looking to do exactly what you just described. So we might be back in touch with you to make some connections on that. My next question is around the state coalitions, and is Tennessee, so I guess back up a minute, not state coalitions, where they have a state policy that's driving local boards. Is Tennessee in that list, on that list? Well, how you had the state of Pennsylvania up there. I was just wondering if Tennessee was.
Oh, in terms of a state that already has a sector partnership policy in place.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tennessee has done work in that area. They do provide support to local sector partnerships through the Tennessee Labor Education Alignment Program, or LEAP. So they do provide funding from the state to local sector partnerships. And they have established that program is in statute, and it lays out the importance of forming partnerships between employers and post-secondary institutions in key strategic industries in the state.
Great, thank you. Possibly this is maybe some of our folks on the call know where to find this, but where do you find the public plan that is supposed to be out there, you know, before March the 6th? Is it on the state websites, or what would be some suggestions of where that is located so that we can get chambers to meet, to at least look at it, their leadership, and have some input?
Sure. If you're not already familiar with your state workforce development board, just Google that. Google your state's name and then Workforce Development Board. You should be able to pull it up. And on their website, they should be providing information about their WIOA planning efforts, hopefully with a calendar indicating when they will have a draft plan for public review. And if they already have a draft plan, there would be a link to it so you can read it. And many that do have a draft plan available also have a link where you can offer comments. In some cases, they're holding town hall type meetings in locations around the state where you can come in person and offer comments.
Great, thank you. That was very, very good answer. Thank you very much for that. I'll open it again to our participants. Or does anybody thought of a comment or a question you'd like to ask?
Kelly and Nancy, I see that you still do not have audio access to speak on the call. If you enter your PIN again, that will enable you to raise a question, or you can enter them in the toolbar. And then Beth or Brooke, do you have any other additional questions for our speakers today?
Okay. Well, I think I waited the appropriate pause. So I'm going to end with one last question. Actually, before I do my last question, Scott, one of the things was to join the BLU. Tell me what that means. Do I, go in and put my email address in and my name and what I do, just give a little bit of information and maybe some of the benefits of being a member of the BLU.
Sure, Kathy, I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, typically when it says join, somebody's coming with their hand out looking for a big check.
Yes.
Although you're welcome to send a big check, it's not a requirement. Yeah, if you go to the Business Leaders United website, which is www.businessleadersunited.org, that'll take you to a place where you can actually click on and put in your information about your individual entity and your name and all of that. And what that does is it allows us to get back in contact with you. It puts you on our mailing list, gets you some of that information, and then probably more importantly what will happen is that you'll start to get some more personal engagement, because what we would like to do obviously is reach out to your legislative affairs committees and talk to some of your employers to help them to understand how it benefits them to engage with the workforce system. Legislative affairs committees, typically those folks are already interested in policy, and I would tell you that every employer that's within your chamber has some sort of workforce issues. So this is a great place for them to take one of their passions, which is policy, and add it to some of their needs and really be able to do both.
Great, thank you very much. And then my one last question probably won't be a surprise, but what is the best thing about this new WIOA Act that is coming into play? So I'll start with Bryan and then in with Scott, and then Anna is going to take us through some resources of the Education Attainment Division.
Well, one of the best things is that the Act really is designed to put business in a leadership role. You know, the purpose of the Act in the big picture is to help address the skill gap in the nation. That, as many employers report, there are not enough newly trained workers to fill job openings, both in terms of specific occupational skills, like someone trained to be a registered nurse, but also the soft skills of good work habits and attitude. So the Act is one of the tools to address that, and a good thing about the Act is that it does put employers in leadership role. I mean, the individuals who know best how to address these issues by making a majority of the state and local boards have to be from business, by the requirement of forming sector partnerships, and employers have to play a leading role in the sector partnerships, and by providing opportunities for employers to directly be engaged in training. So that is a really good feature of the Act that does recognize that employers are key to addressing the skill gap in the nation.
Great, thank you. And Scott?
And so what I would say is I would echo what Bryan says, because it is crucial to have employers involved in this. And for years now, we've been bringing employers to DC and talking to lawmakers saying, hey, employers need to be, taking a leading role, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is almost like playing poker and having somebody call your bluff. And what they're saying now is, okay, we're going to put employers there. So it's the responsibility of us as employers, you as chambers, to get your employers involved. They've heard us now. They've put it into the law that employers need to be in a leading role. And if we don't step up and take that, then what will happen is that in the future they're not going to really believe that that's important to us. So this is a place where we've got to step up now and really do something about it.
Great. Thank you both very much for a very informative presentation. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Anna, who's going to give us a highlight of some of the work that's going on within the Education Attainment Division and ACCE. Anna?
Thank you, Kathy, and a special thanks to Bryan and Scott for that wonderful and informative presentation on WIOA. For our participants on the call, I just want to draw your attention to a few division resources that are available to you. Please note that we have an Education Attainment Division webpage on ACCE's website, and there's a short URL that's easy to remember, which features all of our resources and provides you with more information about our work. One tool that you'll see under our programs area of work on the web page is our Education and Workforce Development Self-Assessment. If you have not already taken that assessment, it's a useful tool to help your chamber identify its strengths and weaknesses in education and workforce development. From there, we can always pair you with a consultant if you're interested to give you a deeper dive of technical assistance related to your chamber's goals and strategies for its community. Some of our consultants include Kathy, and we have a few others that we work with that we can connect you with. We also have a variety of mentors with experience in education and workforce development. So if that is of interest to you, we can always connect you with one of your peers. And we have various Chamberpedia pages on education and workforce development that span the full cradle to career spectrum. And then one big thing I would like all of you to note is that we have our convention scheduled in August, this upcoming August, from the 9th through the 12th. The reason I want you to note that is that we'll be offering a full education and workforce development track with various workshops and opportunities for you to connect with your peers. So that's a great resource. So if you can attend, please save that date on your calendars. And lastly, we just released a full feature on education in our current Chamber Executive magazine. So if you have not seen that already, it's available online, and your chamber should have received a copy of that in the mail. If you do not know where to find that online, I can always send you the link as well. Lastly, I'll just quickly share my email. Just in case you would like me to connect you with any of our consultants or our speakers today, I'm always happy to do that. And again, I'd just like to thank you for your time today, and I look forward to staying connected.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, and hope you have a wonderful day.
Bye. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.